Hello and welcome to this special inaugural edition of Eye on KZN, a monthly show focused on the business of doing business in South Africa's second biggest economic region and of course home to the big five and smaller critters that someone in an article in a tourism magazine called the Little 10. I'm Godfrey Mutizwa. At the end of March this year, over 5,000 delegates from across emerging territories convened in South Africa for the 5th annual BRICS Summit. Hosted in Kwa-zulu Natal's coastal city of Durban, the summit spawned a number of deals, and one of the most innovative approaches that I saw was the provincial government flooding hotels with leaflets with contact details for anyone with questions on how to do business in the province. On the program today, we discuss the impact of BRICS on Kwa-zulu Natal as the gateway province positioned to do business with other BRIC countries.
All eyes were on Durban last month when it welcomed the new world for the 5th BRICS Summit, the first on African soil. Although the event was held in Durban, it put KwaZulu Natal on the international map. With a 2011 GDP of 303 billion rand, it contributes about 15.7% to South Africa's GDP. It offers a market of about 10.3 million people with a sizable GDP per capita of 30,392 rand. The 2011 KwaZulu Natal Provincial Growth and Development Strategy aimed to achieve a prosperous province with a healthy, secure and skilled population, acting as a gateway to Africa and the world. This mirrors the BRICS conference theme, BRICS in Africa, Partnership for Development, Integration and Industrialization. The province has the highest export propensity in the country. Manufacturing contributes an average of 18% to the provincial GDP. In this regard, the BRICS countries bring to the table the experience and the expertise of their development trajectories. The province also boasts solid finance, real estate and business service sectors, which contribute 17% to its GDP. KwaZulu Natal's reputation as a leading tourist destination is well established, with tourism currently contributing 13.6%. The BRICS Summit was a boon for the hospitality industry, as 5,000 BRICS delegates descended into Durban, causing most hotels to be either fully booked or near full occupancy. The motto for the province is Masisukume Sake, let us rise and build. The BRICS countries are already part of the African infrastructure solution. The province's transport and logistics sector are already playing their part, contributing 22.4% of South Africa's national transport. Durban and Richards Bay ports handle nearly 80% of South Africa's cargo tonnage. Complementing this is the Durban Trade Port. Located 30 kilometers north of Durban, it's the country's premier passenger and air freight hub and is a catalyst for global trade and a portal between the province and the world. It is the only facility in Africa that brings together such a variety of development zones, namely the King Shaka International Airport, the Cargo Terminal, Durban City, Trade Zone, Agri-Zone and Durban iConnect. KwaZulu Natal also offers the perfect opportunity for BRICS partners to realize investment opportunities and mineral resources. Although coal and aluminium mining are still small GDP contributors, there's an opportunity to exploit collieries which have been closed down or unexplored mines. Examining the KwaZulu Natal economy on a sectoral level, it is evident that manufacturing, transport and business service sectors are key role players, indicating a growing maturity in the province's economic makeup and its readiness to be the gateway province for BRICS investors wanting to do business in South Africa and the rest of the continent.
Thank you, Panasha. Now joining me in studio to unpack the synergies between BRICS and the KZN province, the Honorable Michael Mabuyakhulu, MEC for Economic Development and Tourism in KZN, Andrew Layman, Head of Durban Chamber of Commerce, Saxon Van Coller, CEO of Durban Trade Port, and Rajan Reddy, CEO of KZN Oils. Now, also, of course, in studio, we have a live audience who are going to be helping us ask some of the questions from our panelists. Gentlemen, lady, thank you for joining me today. And let's start with you, MEC, because you are at the center of driving the strategy to get investment into KZN. But I want us to begin with the BRICS, because many stories were written about BRICS and the deals and the meetings behind closed doors. I spoke about the leaflets that were at people's hotels. In terms of business, what did you see?
Well, first and foremost, let me say that we want as KZN to welcome this initiative between ourselves, the partnership between ourselves and CNBC in particular, on Eye on KZN, which will be a monthly program that will be televised live. We think as a province we would like to maximize on the basis of positioning KwaZulu Natal going forward. Coming back to your question, for us, the BRICS Summit was a golden opportunity that we didn't want to leave without actually getting maximum capital out of it.
Sure.
What did we able to benefit out of it? At least 3 main deals actually came out of the BRICS Summit for us, other than the discussion that took place in the actual summit. The first one is that there was an agreement signed between the Action Group, which is an Indian-based group, together with the Durban Trade Port, which would have an investment to the tune of about 2 billion rand in the Durban trade zone.
Right.
The second one was also an agreement signed between ourselves as a province, together with the South African partners and the Chinese partners, which for an investment, exploration of investment opportunities to the tune of about 2.8, 2.9 billion rands. The third one, of course, was a deal signed between the South African group called Imbane, together with the Chinese group, to invest in shipbuilding and repair in Richards Bay to the tune of about 5 billion rands.
So definitely business was going on at KZN.
So all in all, we actually can say safely we have got closer to about 10 billion rand worth of investment opportunities that we think we're going to pursue with vigor to try and ensure that those are realized.
Yeah. Now, let's speak about some of the issues of doing business there, because we know that while KZN has certainly been working hard to ensure that it is easier to do business there are always bottlenecks that need to be addressed. The people who came for the BRICS Summit would have seen some of those issues. I want you to give us a sense of what you are doing as a province to make it easier to come and do business in KZN.
We've done a number of other things. First, we have decided to actually, way back in 2009, 2010, we're the first province in the whole country that has come up with what is called an investment protocol. We've taken the whole of what South Africa, if anyone wants to understand the investment regime in South Africa, we have now produced a single booklet. And I think we're one of the most, about 8 or 10 countries in the world that have produced what is called an investment protocol. That investment protocol, if you give it to an investor, it will tell an investor who is not familiar with our investment destination how you can do business in KwaZulu Natal, in South Africa, and what are the timelines for certain regulatory applications to be followed.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, we've appointed what we call a brokering team, investment brokering team. And that team actually therefore intervenes in instances where there are delays in investments and in application, developmental rights applications. And that team is actually chaired by the CEO of Trade and Investment KwaZulu Natal, Mr. Mabuyakhulu. It was appointed by our Premier. The third thing that we've done is we have been working together with a number of national public entities such as Transnet, Port Authority, particularly to create greater efficiencies in the ports of Durban and in the ports of Richards Bay. In that, I must say that we are succeeding because huge investments are being made now to create better efficiencies at that level. The fourth one, of course, is that we ourselves, as you know, we're able to actually push for the construction of the Durban Trade Port together with the King Shaka International Airport. And therefore, we have seen a huge investment to the tune of about 7.8 billion rand that took place, which is the first in the country after 40 years, where we saw a green investment project in an airport building. So for us, it is saying that KZN is doing everything that it actually wants to become not only the best growing province for South Africa, but also to become the gateway into the region and into the continent.
And we've got the CEO herself here. She's going to be certainly giving us testimony. I want to come to you, Andrew, because the MEC has outlined what they are doing. But before we go into these initiatives that he has spoken about, I want you to give me a sense of what you got out of the BRICS Summit and whether your members in particular got a piece of the action.
To be quite honest, the answer to that is no.
Ha.
But then one has to recognize that that was essentially a meeting.
Right.
And it was a gateway, if you like, to the opportunities that are still to arise. So we found from the Chamber's point of view that we were quite marginalized, to be honest, from BRICS. And we were one of a number of organizations that felt exactly the same way.
Right.
Now, expectations among our members were raised because this summit was going to be held in Durban. The hospitality sector certainly benefited from it. I think that 300 million rand or something flowed into the eThekwini economy.
Those are some of your members?
Yes, they are some of our members. But I think that our members would have wished for an opportunity to engage with some of the visiting business people.
Right.
And that opportunity didn't occur as forthrightly, let me put it that way, as we had hoped. Now, what our members really need to understand is that that was a gateway.
Right.
Now the gate is open, and now we've got to exploit the opportunities that this economic bloc presents to our business community.
I'm going to come to the MEC to answer the issue about why you did not benefit, because certainly that should have happened. It was in KZN. But I want to bring Rajan here. Rajan, did you see anything? Did you get full value for BRICS in Durban?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
You did not?
We did not be part of that program as such. I think having been part of this from very inception and through from '95 and looking at it, it's sadly that there is a huge gap to cover for business to actually get involved.
Yeah.
I think we need to be careful of these type of programs. We mustn't let them run too fast, much faster than the people, to take the people along to benefit.
Yeah.
So
was it because you perhaps were not running as fast as you should have done?
I think it's a good comment that is there, but you're only allowed to grow as good as the environment will allow you to grow, and looking at what is there. So I think we must also be careful that these countries, when they come here, that we are not used as a platform to accelerate their growth program, and leaving the masses and business behind.
Yeah.
Because the very well organized business from India and Russia and China and Brazil would come here, and they're looking at our fantastic infrastructure to a gateway to Southern Africa. So I think we need to be very, very careful that we do not become spectators to this show. And that's exactly what Andrew was talking about.
You sound like you're worried, Rajan, and I'll come back to you on details on why perhaps you should be engaging with government, but that's, let's just hold that thought there. I want to come to you, Saxon, last and certainly not least. Now, from the Durban Trade Port perspective, obviously the expectation is that there would be no immediate benefit flowing to you. But in terms of perhaps your discussions with some of the participants at BRICS, did you see anything that suggests that going forward, this is going to be an important conversation for you to undertake with other participants from the BRIC nations?
Absolutely. I think that from a business perspective for us, we were very fortunate through all the engagement of our MEC, the KZN government, and at the national level. What happened between Action Group and ourselves, being Dubai Trade City, is that those arrangements and agreements were actually fast-tracked through the BRICS initiatives. And it culminated as an illustration of a successful private-public partnership and how that can actually work. Now, as you've referred to earlier, that there are some bottlenecks as a perception within our province, and this agreement that was signed worth 2 billion rand initially from the Action Group illustrates that that actually isn't the case always.
Right.
So it has been a fantastic initiative for us, and we're really looking forward to the benefits for our province from it. I like the story that is emerging
here, because certainly it's mixed views, but MEC, there's some very strong viewpoints that have been expressed here about the fact that business in Durban particular, or in KZN in particular, did not seem to see benefits flowing immediately out of the BRICS summit.
Well, let me say that I think there are things we can do as government, and there are things that we are going to have to encourage our partners in business in particular to go out there and to become best and the better hunters.
Sure.
I think the only way we can do that, for instance, we had the BRICS Business Forum.
Yes.
And in the BRICS Business Forum, South Africa was therefore a host, in the sense that we're hosting the BRICS Business Forum. We don't sit in the structures of business as government and therefore determine who participates in the BRICS Business Forum or who doesn't.
Sure.
We leave that to business. However, from where we stand, we then decided as the provincial government of KwaZulu Natal that hence this was taking place in our own backyard. We should therefore be able to box and box smart.
Sure.
And what did we do? We established what we call the KZN Business Hub at the Protea Hotel, Edward Hotel. And therefore, what was the intention there was to simply say, and we made it public. We even went into the media.
I can vouch for you, I saw it.
Yes. And we even said to KZN business to say, if you have got people that you want to do business to business linkages with, come to the KZN Business Hub, indicate who you would want to have a contact with. We will try to facilitate to the best that we can, but it's a platform we're giving to KZN business people so that people can come and use the KZN Business Hub for free. We're not charging anything. That is the thing we could do to provide a platform.
Sure.
The second part I would want to say, I would want us, and particularly business in South Africa and in KZN in particular, that when we think we have got big opportunities on stage like this, we are going to have to go out and simply say, what is it we are looking for? How do we position ourselves in this big game? Nations of the world are driven by nothing but their national interest.
Sure.
We must therefore be driven by our national interest. And the interest of KZN South African business is to, first and foremost, have got space, okay, to be able to trade with the world, but secondly, to be able to have business opportunities and joint ventures. I would be willing, using the trade and investment in Kwa-zulu Natal, that in future, if our colleague in business were to indicate to us who they would want to have to link with, we will then go on out of our way to try and facilitate those business-to-business discussions. But we can't therefore be responsible of what happens in the business forum. And I must tell you, I was participating in the business forum, and I was highly encouraged by particularly the South African delegation that was able to say South Africa is focusing in achieving these objectives.
Andrew, the MEC is saying he did as much as you could, short of holding your hand.
Well, I don't have any criticism in this regard of the provincial government. Let me hasten to say that. I think the business hub that was established was really good.
Did you participate in it?
We had members who went to the business hub, yes, and they reported back to me. They were delighted to have the opportunity. But for example, there was a delegation of some 75 very high-profile business people from India, and we tried desperately to actually engage or give our members the opportunity to engage with that group. And unfortunately, we were unable to establish anything. I don't want to be misunderstood about this. This was the summit, as I said before. We were disappointed in the summit from the Chamber's point of view. I don't share Rajan's cynicism to the same extent about BRICS. I think BRICS is wonderful for the country. I think it's wonderful for our business community. It's got to be managed, yes, but the opportunities that lie within BRICS are open now. And that's when business must in fact grasp the nettle, so to speak, to make sure that we don't waste this wonderful opportunity that our South African businesses have, particularly those in
So you
KZN.
do not think that the coming of the BRICS and of course the corporations that are represented in those member nations will not threaten the business that is existent in KZN? You see it more as an opportunity, is that what you're saying?
I do see it more as an opportunity,
Though of course there will be threats to those businesses that are already there, because we do know that KZN is a strong manufacturing base, and we know that KZN is the gateway to South Africa and of course the rest of the continent.
Well, the MEC mentioned that countries have national interests which are priorities. Sure, that's the case. Now I think that we've got to make absolutely sure that our national interests are well managed and well looked after in this whole process. I don't think we've got that much reason to fear the bigger economies, because those bigger economies want to get into Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa. They are interested in doing so via South Africa and KZN in particular, because of the stature of the port. Now that suggests to me that there are huge business opportunities that exist for our people, because these other nations will need business service assistance in order to get into Africa where they want to be.
Saxon, I'll come to you because you play an important part in facilitating that intra-BRICS trade. But I want us to address some of the concerns that were raised by Rajan around these big corporations that are coming here at the same time to, I think in his mind, to take on some of the opportunities that are within the local space. How do we manage competition between the BRICS nations and our corporations here, some of them that are small, that are growing, and now suddenly have to take on these big corporations with huge reputations. Can I begin with you, MEC, and then come to you? Rajan, if you want to add, please do feel free to come in.
Well, first and foremost, I think let's say one thing, Godfrey, very clear. I think as government, we have set up the rules of the game in such a manner that we would want to see equity developing. And in a sense that there's no way we can actually grow this economy if we're only inwardly looking and focusing on ourselves only. Therefore, it is clear that South Africa and KwaZulu Natal, for all of us to grow, we're going to require to have foreign direct investment.
Sure.
Now, in that process, we therefore open up a space for strategic partnerships, for joint ventures between South African companies and their prospective investors or counterparts from elsewhere in the world, be they in the BRICS family of member nations or outside of the BRICS family. It is important that we have got that kind of an approach, because the similar kind of threat is going to be facing us when we go into the African continent. Because South Africa, with its well-developed economy, when it goes into the African continent, the same fears are likely to happen.
Sure.
And how to redress those fears? You address those fears, it is just common sense for business. That you go in there, you have got joint partnership, joint ventures, but you also reduce the risks in doing business. So that you spread that risk by partnering with people who understand the local conditions.
You can't do business without the locals.
We can't do business with that. But I think I would want to encourage more of ourselves, of South African business. Let's become the best hunters.
Rajan.
I think we, when we speak and we hear people speak, we got to put it in context.
Sure.
MEC is speaking from a political point of view.
Yes. He provides the environment.
He provides
and he wants
the
you to hunt in that environment
that's
by making
conducive.
it easier for you to hunt.
Yes. And of course, Andrew Layman, he represents his members. I think basically we are the asset test as business. We're on the ground. So
that's why we brought you here.
Exactly. So we feel the heat. And we need this genuine preparation. So I think we must be careful, even when MEC was saying 10 billion and things like that. Now, there is different parts of the economy where you are becoming just a partner. Where it's equity participation, you're giving a few maybe black people an opportunity.
Yeah.
But we need to industrialize this country.
But are you saying, Rajan, that the 10 billion will not trickle down to you? Because I was speaking to you, so you run service stations, right?
Yes.
So those people who came to Durban certainly would have traveled around Durban, around KZN. The business that will come, the people who set up the factories, they will use our roads, they will use our fuel. It will come to you, no?
So we must be careful of, not playing to the grandstanding, as I would say. These are just once off, 3 days and of chaos, and there's very little. The hospital, the hotels will get.
The hotels were certainly full.
Yes, they would get that. But we've got the other 300 and some more days of the year that we've got this, and we've got a lifetime to go ahead. You've got to invest in the people.
Okay.
You've got to make sure that we skill the individuals that can sit across their counterparts on equal terms.
Right.
So I'm not afraid of competition. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And in order to become a very good hunter, you need to sharpen your skills.
Yeah.
You need the opportunity to sharpen your skills.
Did you not get enough time to sharpen your skills? Because South Africa became a member of BRICS in December 2010.
Basically, when these opportunities, or when you have these BRICS or whatever the case may be, it just lies at the top.
Right.
Basically, you'd look at that. If you look at the type of business that's coming in, the masses or the groups, the larger groups, don't actually get an opportunity to
You're saying we need to be more effective, and I get your point.
Yes.
Let me come to you, Saxon. I asked the MEC earlier. You want to respond to him?
Just very
Please
briefly.
feel free, because
Look,
I want to come to Saxon.
I want to say, without prolonging the discussion,
Yes.
I think there are certain points that we must take. One, I think if there is a request from government, from business, to be assisted with training business people, we would first and foremost be saying, business belongs to business formations. And therefore, as government, we have no intention of taking over the responsibility of the various business formation where business belongs to. However, we actually have got programs of equipping and assisting and capacitating business, and therefore we'll partner with that. And if Mr. Layman and through the chamber simply say, we want assistance, I think our job is to actually provide those type of assistance to business, so we do that. Secondly, we must accept that BRICS has now moved on. From the business forum, we now have established a business council, a BRICS Business Council.
Yes.
Now, for the first time going forward, we'll have a systemic manner in which the interest of business is going to be coordinated going forward. First and foremost on a country-to-country level, and then secondly at the level of the BRICS member countries. I will be expecting that dialogue should happen. Particularly, Mr. Reddy, have that dialogue with Mr. Patrice Motsepe, who is the chairperson of the South African part, and ensure that at a business level, you become much more coordinated. It will be very difficult for government to be expected to do what business must do for themselves. And I think we can't take it beyond that. However, we are driven by a national interest. The South African business must benefit in these interactions. Otherwise, why therefore are we there? We are there because we want to ensure that as a country, we must benefit in terms of investment, must benefit in terms of trade, but we must also be able to use all of this to come back and to deal with our national difficulties and challenges of unemployment, of poverty, of inequality. So I think what we would do, if Mr. Reddy and them want us to do that, we can still facilitate, but we now have got a country forum which actually is much more coordinated now going forward than in the past.
Thank you, ABC. I think it's an important point because the same point also came up in a debate that we moderated at BRICS, where the question was asked, how do we make sure that small businesses also benefit out of these big deals that are being struck? And what he is raising is certainly something that was also raised at the summit. But I wanted to come to Saxon before we go to the break, because you hopefully are going to see the flow that comes through from South Africa being a member of BRICS in terms of volumes increasing at the ports, exports as well as imports. Talk to us about some of the measures that you are taking to make sure that efficiencies are improved, because that's been one of the big bugbears of business, that you try and move stuff through South African ports. It takes you a long time, and it is also expensive.
Sure. Well, I'm actually not in a position to be able to comment on the port itself, as our portfolio is really the Metropolis, which is an airport city for simplistic terms. Now, in the investment that the country has made in this national flagship, we provide seamless infrastructure that enables passenger, logistical platforms and infrastructure, air cargo, and then our connect environment with agriculture as well. So we provide that seamless integration of all the services where there have been bottlenecks in the past. And so that, I think, although we are part of the corridor between Richards Bay and the actual KZN port, we form a very important factor that can be simplified through using our Aerotropolis.
I'm certainly hoping that one day we'll bring you onto the shows and you can talk to us about the volumes. You want to add something quickly before we
Yes, very quickly. I think MEC knows me very well. I've been a product of the BE program in the country from 95, being an emerging entrepreneur to the company we've developed, where we've got 141 employees. So there's differences between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. I'm not talking about those entrepreneurs that got equity participation. I'm talking about entrepreneurs that create something. And those are the ones that create employment.
From the environment.
Absolutely.
Indeed, we need to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll be talking more about KZN and how it can benefit from South Africa's membership of the BRICS nations. That's after the break.